that C-clip there, and on this C-clip here. It won't stop the prop, but it will ensure the C-clip doesn't accidentally come off. So here's a good little trick for those of you who are interested. This was the adapter, and this is sandpaper. Just normal, this happens to be an 80 grit sandpaper, which is quite coarse. And I cut 2 squares and put a hole. The hole doesn't have to be perfect, but the adapter just has to go through it. But I'm using double-sided tape here in this example, and I'm just laying that over there. Now what I'm going to do is peel off this protective cover for this double-sided tape. So what I'm doing here is trimming off this excess there. And that just peels off like this, and you just peel it off. Then I take my other piece and just stick it over it. You can see it's not really aligned properly, but I know where my hole is, so I use a hole punch just to put a hole the same size through both. And I can trim it off later, push that through, and then I basically use scissors and I just cut it out around there. And there it is. Now if I want to, I can just cut that around there. And that is now a good washer, because when this goes on, it's got the sandpaper, the grittiness of the sandpaper helping stop the rotation. I do that on props as well. Now putting this on, and this washer will help, as I said before. It's actually spinning the motor now, whereas before the whole lot was spinning. Just this part was spinning around like that. Well, now that's good enough, even without any pressure holding it on, to grip the motor shaft. I'm happy with that. This goes in here, and then this just screws on, but I'm going to be putting some thread lock on it before I do that. So the thread locker I would use is this Z42. You just put a little dab, it's actually blue, you put a little dab on the thread and then you screw it up and it just dries, but it allows you to break that bond if you need to. But I'm not going to do it now. I've suddenly realised I'm going to keep the prop off and the spinner because I've got all the electronics to set up. So I will be using the old style AR6210. Now I might not use the satellite receiver. Let me get a bind plug on it, connect everything up, and we should be good to go. I'm playing around with the centre of gravity right now, and the manual is a little confusing. So if we see this picture, it says the centre of gravity is extremely important, blah blah blah. Position your battery in the battery tray, balance the model upright so that the model balances at between 65 millimeters. Between what? Nothing, it's 65 millimeters aft of the leading edge of the wing piece. Well, the diagram clearly shows the rule on this foam piece here, which actually is ahead of the leading edge, which I've marked here. Now it's important because if you measure from the leading edge back of the wing piece, this is behind this tape. So this piece in itself is about 5mm difference. I'm going to go online, I'm going to see if anyone's commented on that. I highly doubt it. And if not, I will err on the side of caution to the manual and say, okay, they know what they're doing. I'll take the wing off and measure it back from this part of the wing backwards to 65. If you measure 65 from the front foam piece of a single wing, it actually ends up where there's a hole for all these wires and cables. So all I've done is I've extended 7 centimeters out to this point and marked it. But if I were to follow the actual text and go from the leading edge, and go from the leading edge of the wing, then that is in fact more like 57. Could even get away, yeah, it's 56, 57. But because you're measuring it from within the foam of the aircraft, 65 comes to right on this edge. If you push that edge forward, it comes to there. And I've done that on both wings. See the line I've drawn? It's not very level at the moment, but that's just me. But the line I've drawn across there is where the battery needs to be, and there's plenty of room. Strap will hold it there. I'll have Velcro strip on it or a mat, and I've got plenty of space at the front there. Yeah. Good. Yeah, so that's where the end of the battery is. A bit of a serious note here. I've just set this all up and I had the prop facing away into this white area over here. So the tail was facing me. I checked all the control surfaces, everything's right how I need it. I put the throttle on, held the plane to see what it was like thrust wise, and as soon as I cut the throttle, this spinner came spinning off, the prop shot forward and landed into basically the catch net, which is this white piece here, across here. If it had been facing me, it would have smacked into me. And that was using what I thought was enough thread lock, and it isn't. Now the instructions say do not use thread lock on it. How on earth are you supposed to keep that there if you don't use thread lock? Well, I've decided to go for the old foam tack solution. This thing solves every problem I have. So what I've actually done, I put foam tack on the thread and screwed this front piece in. Now if I leave that long enough, the foam tack will go, it's basically like a jelly, it remains flexible, but it should be enough to hold that spinner in. If it isn't, I'll have no choice but to go over to thread lock and lock it in place. That's ridiculous. None of that deters from it looking really sleek, and she's all ready to go. One little thing I have done, this pin that was on the top here, which releases the hatch, it was basically just like a nail. Well, what I've done is I've got some generic switch covers. I use them for my transmitter. You can see some there. These are colour coded, so that's the engine stop, for example. Then I've got flaps are white, rates are yellow, and when I use safe modes and that type of thing, it's on the green switch. And I had some left over. Had some small ones left over. I cut them down. Guess what I used to glue that in place? Yes, I used good old foam tack. And this now got a little rubber thing around it so you don't feel like you're sticking a pin into your fingers every time you undo it, and it comes off much easier. That comes off, and you put this back in, pull that back, push it forward, there you go. Easy little fix. So while we're in this lockdown phase here in the UK, I'll be doing some building. This is one, which I've now done. I've still got a few bits to do on it, but it's basically finished. And then I will move on to the top RC Swift. And that, of course, is the EDF powered glider. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you on another video. Cheers.